Unfortunately, there is one flaw in this budget that will, if this amendment is not adopted, will preclude me from being able to support the budget. This amendment, I hope, though, is adopted so that I can support the budget. This amendment would reduce some of the funding proposed in the budget so that we could provide the citizens of Washington with a 0.5% sales tax cut. Madam Speaker, the last 2 years, it's been no secret, have been incredibly tumultuous. When we adjourned almost exactly 2 years ago, COVID-19 was just hitting Washington State for the first time. We were one of the first states in the country to be affected. Schools were just temporarily closed. As the effects of that became obvious, among the many other impacts to our lives, state revenues collapsed. Well, remarkably, in the time since then, state revenues have not only recovered, but have gone far beyond where we ever would have expected them to be at, even before the pandemic hit us. Entering this session, after you account for the revenue forecast changes and the caseload and maintenance level changes, we're looking at a budget surplus over the next 4 years of something like $13 to $15 billion. Never in our state's history have we had so much money with which to spend in the budget. So all session long, myself and my colleagues in my caucus have been arguing for a tax cut to be put forward on the floor of this body. But unfortunately, the budget before us provides no meaningful tax relief, no permanent tax relief, no meaningful tax relief. This amendment would fix that by creating the budget capacity to fund a 0.5% sales tax cut. I went back today and looked at the supplemental budgets for the last 20 years, which I guess since they're every other year would only be the last 10 supplemental budgets. The highest one spent $1.7 billion over 4 years. The budget before us would spend $12.8 billion over 4 years. This budget is almost 10 times as expensive as the next biggest supplemental budget this body has ever passed. Yet no part of that is providing meaningful tax relief to the people before us, the people we represent. This amendment before us would fix that. Our revenues have increased so dramatically that I am confident that we have the ability to both fund all of our needs that we need to fund this year and provide meaningful tax relief to the people of Washington. I think we owe it to the people of Washington to share in the economic largesse of the state. Many of our constituents are struggling, but the state isn't. Yes, we have needs to address. Even with this amendment, it would still be the biggest policy spending increase that this body has ever passed. But we could also do it in a way that provides tax relief to the people we represent. I strongly urge a yes vote on this amendment, Madam Speaker.
We have mass inflation going on right now. 7% is a conservative estimate, I think. And what more can we do to help the people of this state than to say, here's a tax cut on one of the most regressive taxes in this state? And I'd also like just to remind this body, this isn't our money. This is the taxpayers' money.
The Speaker's about to open the roll call machine. The Speaker has opened the roll call machine. Has every member voted who wishes to vote? Would any member like to change their vote? The Speaker's about to lock the roll call machine. The Speaker has locked the roll call machine. Clerk will announce the total.
Madam Speaker, there are 39 yeas, 49 nays, 4 excused.
The amendment is not adopted.
This does a number of things for law enforcement. And why is that important? Well, we've got safety issues. The number of commissioned officers we have in this state has dropped. Wait times have increased at the Law Enforcement Academy. And so what this does is address those issues. $5,000 signing retention bonuses for officers, grants to local law enforcement for body cams, funds 10 additional basic law enforcement classes, and provides other studies and recommendations on how we can fight this crime. And if you look at WASPIC's latest crime report, Madam Speaker, it's quite disturbing. And this is why we really need this amendment. Murders are up 47%. Manslaughter, 100%. Fraud, 131%. We are ranked dead last in the union when it comes to the number of law enforcement officers we have per capita. That's a problem, and those statistics show it. This amendment goes towards addressing those issues. We have an inherent responsibility in this body for the public safety of this state. And it's time that we back our law enforcement officers with the very tasks that we give them and give them the necessary funding to protect the citizens of this state. I strongly urge this body's adoption. Thank you.
These crimes are rampant. Sleepy Little, Allen, Washington, 1,200 people. We cannot muster enough support and resources. Madam Speaker, this is important. We need to do this now. We need to vote now on this so we can bolster our law enforcement, so we can make this crime go away. Madam Speaker, let's adopt this amendment.
There are over $995 million in unspent federal stimulus funds right now that could go to fix this. That's another reason to vote yes. There's other great things in this bill. We talk about accountability. There are grants in here to help local law enforcement agencies with body camera costs. That's a great way to encourage local communities to adopt body cameras for their law enforcement officers. Additionally, you know, the comment that we see about performance metrics, since when is measuring something bad? I think the best businesses are constantly refining what they do and looking back on what they've done. Frankly, Madam Speaker, we don't put enough of this in the work we do here. I think this is a good amendment that makes good use of federal stimulus money and actually works to help heal our communities and support our law enforcement officers.
It'd be great to keep the people who want to serve and protect their communities, who have it in their heart to do the right thing, in the positions that they're in. That would be great. Right now, the legislature has made it difficult to stay in that profession. Unfortunately, it's one of the biggest issues right now in the public. You hear it all the time. Law enforcement officers are leaving at a higher rate. They're in danger. First responders are in danger due to recent legislation. And when you do have one-time money, you invest it in those people who are investing in you. And those people are investing in us tonight, Madam Speaker. We need to keep the ones that are there, and we need to invest in the next generation.
We've never seen it where this many officers have left law enforcement. We've seen them retire early. We've seen them not decide to be an officer. And we've seen those who are an officer looking for other jobs. Madam Speaker, one of the best officers in Klickitat County, a very good friend of mine, was undercover. He did every job that you could do in the county sheriff's office. And he came to me and he said, because of what happened last year, and because of the bills that came out, and he fought with me, he was testifying. You've probably seen him testify numerous times on numerous bills under use of force. He said, I can't do my job. I can't keep the community safe. And he said, that's why I became a law enforcement officer. He said, you took that away. And he quit. You can Google on any site right now across the state of Washington, and you can see people just throwing their hands up. And I know none of us in this body tonight or in the state of Washington want lawlessness and want citizens, just like you and I, to be law enforcement officers, to correct the law. So please vote yes on this amendment.
The Speaker's about to open the roll call machine. The Speaker has opened the roll call machine. Would any member like to change their vote? The Speaker's about to lock the roll call machine. The Speaker has locked the roll call machine. Clerk will announce the record.
Madam Speaker, there are 43 yeas, 50 nays, 5 excused.
The amendment is not adopted.
We know what's going on in Eastern Europe right now. It's going to have a dramatic impact on energy prices. We've also got inflation here at the home front, in addition to globally, 7%. What is the relevance to the budget with that? Well, it greatly impacts the spending power of our citizens. We rely tremendously on sales tax revenue. The Federal Reserve next month will more than likely increase interest rates. That'll have an impact on consumer spending. We will see a slowdown in spending, most likely over the coming 12 to 18 months. And so as we head into this conference with the other body and come with the final budget that we'll vote on yet again, I urge everyone involved to look at that ending fund balance and let's increase it. We had an unexpected surplus of $14 billion. When I got elected in 2012, our biennium budget was around $32 billion. We have $14 billion in surplus? Holy cow. We've got to increase our ending fund balance to make this work. We do not know, and we cannot control what's going to happen in the coming year. And I'm very concerned for the welfare of our citizens, that if we're not able to adapt and pivot and respond to changes in the economy that are beyond our control, that we're going to put them in a dire situation and make draconian cuts that are the worst time to make when you're in a recession. I hope we don't go into recession, but we are certainly looking at some serious dark clouds on the horizon right now. Let's put the state in a better position so that if those storms do come to fruition, we are in a position to be able to handle it.
What we're saying tonight isn't that there is going to be something bad, but we believe there could be something bad on the horizon. And when we have a budget that is set up to have such a low ending fund balance and security for the future, I'm worried that the smart choices that we're not making now are going to lead to drastic choices in the future for us as a state. Madam Speaker, I don't want to have to come back here next year and cut programs. I don't want to have to come back here next year and say no. Unfortunately, we are setting ourselves up for that. We're not providing any real tax relief for Washington. We're not putting any meaningful money back away where it belongs, where the people of the state expect us to have our savings in order, like we expect them to have their savings in order when troubled times come. There is a lot of good stuff in this bill, a lot of stuff that we have broad support for, that we agree on, and we've heard that tonight. Unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff in here that gives us serious concern. And Madam Speaker, when we do things in a manner that doesn't come together as one Washington, we often pay for the price for that. It may not be today, it may not even be.
If the good member will not impugn members but speak to the policy, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I said before, our best policy for the state is policy that comes out of here worked together in unison and in broad agreement. Unfortunately, this budget is not that, and I'm urging a no.
There are a number of concerns with this budget, and they've been mentioned before, but I will reiterate, there is not meaningful tax relief in this budget. And at the end of the day, the money really belongs to the people. And at a time with just raging inflation, much of which most members of this body have not seen in their entire working career, unless you've been working more than 40 years, you probably haven't seen inflation like this. And I think at a time of that type of uncertainty, the best thing that we can do for the people of Washington is let them keep more of their hard-earned money so that they can put gas in their tank and continue to go to work, so that they can buy groceries to feed their family. And while you can't fund every tax relief proposal all at the same time, reducing the sales tax rate and property tax relief, add all those things together, but you can pick and choose and do those things. And I wish we would have implemented some of that stuff in this budget today, Madam Speaker. So for those reasons, I'm going to be a no and urging a no vote on this.
When I first got elected, Madam Speaker, which doesn't seem that long ago, despite the gray hair you might notice on your screen, our state budget, our enacted state budget spent $33.7 billion out of the new general fund. The document before us today would spend $65 billion. In my less than 4 terms in this body, our state budget has doubled. I don't know of many of my constituents who have seen their income double. And yet we're telling them that despite us as a state having the resources to double our spending, we're unwilling to return any of the money to them more than a 3-day one-time sales tax holiday. I don't think that's the right thing to do, Madam Speaker. And despite all of the other wonderful things in the budget,
please do not impugn members. Please proceed on the policy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do not think the policy of increasing spending by $12.8 billion and not providing any meaningful permanent tax relief to the people who supplied those $12.8 billion in tax revenue in the first place, I do not think that's wise policy. I think it would be much better policy to our constituents to provide them with meaningful tax relief rather than a 3-day one-time sales tax holiday. So despite there being many other good things in the budget, I cannot support a document that fails to recognize the difficulties that our constituents have faced and provide them with the tax relief that they deserve. Please vote no, Madam Speaker.